Hello. Alright, this video has been sitting in my draft folder for a while already, so I figured I should quickly do this. And yeah, basically this video is about our recent trip to Copenhagen, Denmark during a rather rainy season, which is around February to March, and just sharing about our experiences visiting some of the tourist destinations, how we felt, and in the hopes of that this can help you as well, or like you get to see how Copenhagen is like. For context, we spent about like 3 to 5 days here in Copenhagen. It's hard to give an accurate timeline because we had day trips in and out. But for this video, I'll just go through the different places that we visited, our itinerary, and hopefully this will give you a better idea of what to expect through all these places that we visited. So without further ado, let's go. Because to start off, we will go with probably the most famous place, or like the most recommended place for people to visit when in Copenhagen, which is the Little Mermaid statue. I think the biggest tip about visiting the Little Mermaid statue is not to just visit the statue itself, but put it as part of a bigger itinerary. The statue is actually quite close to Ameliaborg Palace and also the Frederiks Church, so you can just plan your visit around these three places together. I think it's located within this park called the Churchill Park, where there's a lot of historical buildings. So aside from the Ameliaborg Palace and also the Frederiks Church, you can have a walk in this park itself. It has a really nice sea view and a lot of historical buildings. And one of these is the Kastellet, which is like a 17th century fortress built in the pentagon shape. And it's actually quite cool if you can see it from the map because of the star shape. And actually this is still in use by the current military, so you can actually see soldiers here. But the special thing is it's also open to public, so you can see people running around. And for us, we managed to have a chance to walk on the embankment itself, which is like this raised portion, which has a really nice view and really complements the walk in the park together with the Little Mermaid statue. And the gate itself is also like quite historical. There's also a traditional English Anglican church nearby called the St. Alban Church, which we didn't manage to enter, but still it makes for a very quite nice backdrop against the park. The second most popular place, or perhaps the well-known touristy place, is of course Nyhavn, which unfortunately for us, we didn't really find it particularly interesting. I think mainly because it could be the weather, it's very rainy, and also it's just, to us it was just a row of restaurants next to a small canal, and most of these restaurants charges a higher price compared to other places, mainly because I guess this is a very popular tourist area. Still, I would say it's worth the walk over because of how iconic it is, just that my recommendation is just don't expect too much for it. For us, aside from just walking past Nyhavn, we also managed to take one of the river boats when the weather was slightly nicer. So this tour is called the Stromma Canals Tour Copenhagen, which brings you to iconic places around the city. So there are 2 stops actually, and one of these is Nyhavn. So you can actually take the boat and get pass by Nyhavn and see how it's like from the canal itself. The other stop is at the Christianborg Palace. And of course the other stop is the iconic Little Mermaid statue. So basically this gives you a very quick teaser of all the Copenhagen's main attractions, and it's free if you have the Copenhagen card. So good as an introduction if you have the time to ride this boat. It takes about half an hour and you don't even need to book it. You just need to turn up either at Nyhavn or the Christianborg Palace, pick up point, and off you go on the boat. Of course, one thing that you shouldn't miss out on in Copenhagen is visiting the royal palaces in the city. Of all the different palaces, the main one is of course the Christianborg Palace. And I say this is the main one because it's still very much in use by both the government and the royal family. And as a tourist, there's several sections of the palace that you can actually visit. And for me, I would say that the royal stables is definitely my personal favorite section of the Christianborg, mainly because this is a very unique place in this palace itself that you can't find anywhere else in most of the castles and palaces around Europe, because you get to see royal horses, like live royal horse. They are still very much in use, which are white, also white in color, that's being housed in this stable itself. And it's a great plus if you are an animal lover, but personally I find this to be quite memorable because again you don't find this anywhere else, and you get to learn about how these horses serve the royal family, their significance of it, and their history. Another interesting place is the royal kitchen, and again it's interesting because you don't get to see this anywhere else. Basically, it gives you a glimpse into how royal kitchens function, a working one in fact, and displays all the different utensils and all the different pots and pans, and really gives you an idea of how grand the preparation of a royal meal is. There's also an underground section that you can visit in this palace. Basically, you get to see the old foundations and the old bricks and whatnot. Sometimes there's also an exhibition. For example, when we came here, there's this exhibition about witch trials underneath here. Of course, like all royal palaces, you also get to see the royal quarters, the halls, the banquet halls, and some of the living rooms, and some grand staircase as well, just to see how the royal family uses this palace to entertain guests, to welcome dignitaries, and to hold all these official functions. So it's a good glimpse because it's still, some of these places are still in use, and you are just there as a guest, and you get to have a behind the scene look at it. My second favourite castle is the Rosenborg Castle, which is surrounded by this very nice moat and next to a really big park. The castle is no longer in use by the royal family and functions as a museum now. It has two parts to it. So the first part of the museum is the above ground museum, where you get to climb the different floors of the castle and to see like the rooms that are preserved in how they used to be when the royal family is still using it. So this castle is free if you have the Copenhagen card as well, and what I like is that you get a really nice guide that explains each row of the room and the history of the room as you visit the different floors of the castle. But of course, if you have been to enough palaces and castles in Europe, they can look quite similar. The second part of the castle, which is underground, is slightly more interesting because this is the museum that houses all the different crown jewels. So you get to see like all the royal crowns and all the very precious stones and the explanation of like the symbolism behind all these things. And the last castle / palace on our list is the Ameliaborg Palace. And as mentioned earlier, this palace is within walking distance to the Little Mermaid statue and also the Frederick Church. So this palace basically, there's only 2 floors. I think there's only like 1 or 2 floors that is open, and basically you can't visit the entire complex because most of them are still in use. But what you can visit is just like a small section where you get to see like the history, mainly history of the royal family in Denmark. So out of the 3, I would say this is the smallest out of the 3 different castles that were listed here. Still, it gives you a glimpse on the different side of the Denmark royal family. Another highlight of Copenhagen and the place that you definitely must visit is Freetown Christiania. So this place is very unique to the capital of Copenhagen itself because of its long history and how the community is shaped. So basically this place started out like a hippie community, and for a very long time it was known for its illegal drug trade in this town. So they are not subjected to the Denmark rules, and like it's like an anarchist community where they are like self-governing. So it's like a country or like a small self-governing enclave within a bigger country. So it's an interesting place to visit, but of course it's not as exciting as it used to, because previously last time there were gangs here. So for tourists, you are not even allowed, or you're not encouraged to film or take your camera out. But nowadays, since like there's been clean up effort, they are more welcoming to tourists. So we found that actually you can take some pictures and take some videos in some of the streets they are allowed to. Of course, you still can get weed here. Definitely, it's not illegal. So, but definitely, as compared to last time, this is slightly more open, slightly safer. We also visited other notable places of interest. For example, this is Round Tower Observatory, or in Danish it's called Rudentårn, which is basically a 17th century observatory tower with a very nice view of Copenhagen once you reach the top. Of course, it involves walking. This is a paid attraction where Copenhagen card doesn't cover, but still we visited this place because we had the time and wanted to have like a very nice view. They also have some nights they also have some tours where you can observe the sky using the telescope here, but we weren't able to do this because we were here during the morning. Nevertheless, it's quite a nice place, very chillax to just have a nice view of Copenhagen when the weather is nice. Copenhagen is also home to a lot of churches, very notable churches, with old history and very grand architecture. For example, this is the Frederick's Church that we visited, which has like the largest dome in Scandinavia, and it's an 18th century Lutheran church. Of course, there are other churches as well. that as you walk and explore Copenhagen, you'll come across them. I mean, each church has their own story, their own architecture, and why they stand out and how they are different. Of course, for us, after a while, they kind of blend in together. And nevertheless, if you are around and you happen to stumble across them, it's good to just go in and just admire European churches, because it is one of their, highlight of Europe. If you are someone who enjoys eating local produce and shopping for them and local food, you can also visit this place called the Torvehallerne KBH, I hope I got it correct, which is basically like a covered marketplace selling different varieties of food, drinks that are locally produced. So if you want to have a sampling of Danish food, Danish pastries, and some Danish gourmet food, you can definitely visit this place. This place reminds me a lot of like the Melbourne Queen Victoria's Market. Of course, I would caveat to say that Melbourne's Queen Victoria Market is still the best and top food house for me, a marketplace for me. Still, I think this is a very good teaser opening to the different types of cuisines you can find in Denmark. And also, if you want to go for souvenir shopping, some local food, you can come here as well. For us, I think some of the fresh food is very nice. For example, the oysters, some of the meat that you can cook, and some of the fish. There's a small sprout as well if you want to try, which to us didn't really taste nice, I think because the bread was out for quite a while already. But other than that, some of the risotto that we tried, the coffee here is damn good as well. So highly rated, should come and try. And I guess this sort of summarizes our whole experience in Copenhagen, Denmark. Winter experience actually, somewhere in February, March. Of course, this is by no means a comprehensive list. There are some places that we visited that wasn't included here, or like there are some places that are not open. For example, the Tivoli Park itself, this is not an open season. You can only visit it during summer period. So during winter, you can't visit here. But nevertheless, these are some of the highlights that I think, one that you should consider, or when you visit Copenhagen, you should visit. Because there are some smaller places that I didn't put in. For example, if you want, you can visit the Lego shop here, which is but I understand it's like one of the things that you must do because Lego comes from Denmark. But some of these smaller things that you can go here and there. Copenhagen is really, really huge. There's a lot of places that you can cover. And I think even though we were here for like almost a week in between our experiences going around Norway and Denmark, we still didn't really finish all the places that we wanted to in Copenhagen itself. But nevertheless, we did cover enough, I feel, and it's a very nice experience, even though some of the days were really rainy, really foggy. But really love the ambience here. The food here is awesome, and highly rated. And definitely, if you have the chance, you should visit Copenhagen at least once if you're around. So I hope this video helps somewhat. It's informative enough, and hope you enjoyed watching this. If you want to watch more videos, I have other travel videos as well. And if not, just subscribe and like. Very much appreciated. And goodbye. See ya.